So I'm here today with Don Purdey of the Conservative Party of British Columbia. Don is a candidate running in the Parksville-Qualicum Beach riding for the October 24th provincial election. I represent the Chambers of Commerce of the region, Parksville District and Qualicum Beach, and our members want to know on a number of topics how you're going to improve the business climate for them. That's our job, is to create the best possible climate for business to operate and be successful. And one of our concerns right now is the huge increase in social items such as mental health and addictions and the opioid crisis, the deaths that are occurring. Mental illness and addiction affects 1 in 5 people across Canada and has a huge impact on business. We'd like to know how the Conservative Party of British Columbia is going to mitigate those impacts.
Okay, with the homeless problem, I'd separate the three. People that are just down on their luck need a hand up. You need to separate them from the druggies and the alcoholics and the people with mental health issues before they lose what few possessions they still have. Now, they're the easiest one to help. And you enable them to get into stable housing, if it's rental units, whatever, you get them off the street. They will eventually recover and be okay on their own. The drug addiction and alcoholics, they're a different issue. You can't do much with people until they are ready to receive help. It's like the whole thing with an alcoholic. They had to hit bottom before they could turn around. A little more violent with the drugs. We can help them, but they have to be willing to participate or we're wasting our time. I'm personally against wet houses. I'm willing to feed, clothe, shelter them, give them whatever counseling and help that they need. But you're not going to drink on my dime and do drugs. If you want help and an opportunity to turn your life around, you can. One of the problems is you can't force people to look after themselves. You can't lock people up for 30 days to get them dry, straight, and sober and improve their health a little and then say, it's up to you. Do you want a chance to live and an opportunity to have your life back? If you do, you have to invest your effort and commitment into this process, because if not, there's many people waiting for this opportunity, and why would we waste our time on you? So if you want help, we will help you. Now that's with the people with mental health or maybe born handicapped. I have a 47-year-old mentally retarded daughter. I understand the challenges with that. And mental health comes and goes. It can be improved. When I was young, they used to institutionalize them. I come from Maple Ridge, and we weren't very far away from Riverview and Essendale, and they used to warehouse thousands of people. We had an enlightened approach to let them out and live on their own. Now, some people needed more monitoring or assistance than others. Some weren't able to function very long on their own. They would need more assistance to keep them online. You're going to succeed with some, others you won't. It's an opportunity for them to have close to normal life, but some are going to need to have ongoing counseling and assistance and someone checking in on them to see how they're making out. So that covers your the homeless due to misfortune, the drug and alcohol thing, and the mental health. And was there another one on there?
you covered all of those areas: the mental health and addictions, and how you would improve the situation, particularly, like I say, the impacts to business. So, you talk a lot about housing, and one of the topics that we have learned through some of the studies that we've done is that housing has a huge impact on our workforce and the availability of people to work in our workforce. And I want to start in an area that you may not think is directly related to workforce, but insurance rates for condominiums and townhouses, stratas have gone up. In some cases, 800%, but in general, 50 to 300%. How would a Conservative Party approach deal with that issue that's really hurting people?
There's a reason for some of the increases. You'd have to see what the legitimate reasons are. Some of these older buildings weren't maintained. Strata ownership is pretty complicated. For someone that hasn't been involved in it, you got to know what the contingency fund is, the condition of the building. You have to know a lot of little details. It's much more complicated than buying a home. And like most fires you have are rental accommodation. Why? They don't own it. They have no pride of ownership. They're not as responsible. If you work for your home, you're going to take a lot better care of it than if it's the landlord's. That's a problem, and we need more options for people. I would always encourage people, or the main objective is for young people to own their own home. For me, at the time, the government had a $5,000 second or a $1,000 grant when you built your first home. That enabled me to buy a lot with very little down, make 3 times the payment they want, but I negotiated a better price, and I arranged to pay for the construction out of the 3 equal construction draws. My total price for the home I built was $22,000, but that was considerable, like almost 47, 48 years ago. Saving money isn't a great deal. The first dollars I earned are now worth a nickel or a dime. You have to own something that is holding its value or going up. The government could do a lot to help people get in. The province owns 99% of the land area in British Columbia. It's called Crown Land. You could do something really extreme by giving people a half-acre lot as a homestead type deal where they're required to build a house within 10 years. They cannot sell it within 10 years. They must make the improvements. It must be a fixed structure on a concrete foundation and at least 1,200 square feet. But you'll give them the land and then they have to build this. Now, it doesn't have to have all services. It could be a gravel road with hydro and city water. They can make do with the other improvements as years come by. But if you give people that step up to make it easier to get into home ownership, it's way cheaper than renting for a lifetime. And at your end of your run, when you're unable to maintain or live in your own home, your assets in that home will take care of you for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, we're not teaching students some necessary skills in high school. Some of us learn from our parents. I had a couple of teachers mention a few things that I would call personal or home or family finance, home economics, and how to manage your money, how to stretch it further. It's not always how much you earn, it's how much sticks to you when you're finished. But there's a difference you can't have a balance carried forward on your credit card. Or if you borrow too much and get into trouble, the bank immediately jacks your reasonable loan to 20 to 29% interest. That's almost criminal. One of the things that would help a lot of homeless people up is the banks don't give these folks a bank account. For the amount of money banks are making, it's unreasonable for these people receiving government assistance to pay 2 to 4% just to cash their check. Now, I understand a bank's not wanting to cash a check unless you have money in the account and you have an address. But there's got to be a way where these people don't have to give the bank a sizable chunk out of their small government check just to get cash. Banks should be required to open a bank account for these people. It's a stepping stone in building your little empire. And there's a lot of little things. Your home is the basic cornerstone, and family is the cornerstone of our social environment and of government and life in Canada. In the last few years, government has been taking over more and more of the decisions and interfering with families. How dare bureaucrats dictate to families when you have children and they want to hide what they're doing with your children from your knowledge? That is blatantly wrong.
So actually one of those areas where we've seen government change the regulations regarding the use of your land is with Bill 52 and the changes the impacts that had on farming families on agricultural land reserve land. So are you familiar with Bill 52, and can you comment on what a Conservative Party would do to...
You have to view each situation individually. Like in the news, there was a successful agricultural operation. I would call it expanded agriculture, where you could sit in the restaurant area, have a cup of coffee, and watch a steer grazing outside that could be on the menu in a month. They actually grew some grain, had someone come in and thrash it, someone else come in with a milling machine, make flour, and then they made flour with the wheat they'd grown on their own land and made products that sold in the thing. Now, it's like a pumpkin patch or the Christmas tree farm. You're providing entertainment, a family activity, a little bit of education, all wrapped together on an agricultural setting. And it was a small piece of land that no one could survive on as agricultural land, but they were doing well. It provided 5 or 6 jobs for people. It was a popular place for locals to meet, and it got shut down because it didn't fit into the description that the NDP has of agricultural land. I think there have to be consideration on individual areas. This seemed like totally unfair, and considering the low quality of land, someone was using it for agriculture and expanding on it, and they were making a living out of it. That should have been allowed.
I've had some of that flour and used it for baking. It's great. Thank you so much for coming in today, Don, and we wish you all the best on the 24th. And you've given us a great deal to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.